Couldn't find the opening of the curtains there. Was she awesome? All right. Well, have a seat. We're going to just chat a little bit. Oh, my goodness. So did you guys get some ideas here? Yeah. How about the lunch? Are you going to be having your team have lunch together? Do you? That's so great. So, I mean, sometimes I think, Kristi, people get this idea that culture is fluff. And it's just this extra thing that's going to cost more, but it actually ends up making you a lot more money.
Totally. Yeah. And it doesn't have to cost anything. I mean, the top three on my list: core values, vision, eat lunch together. Every one of those costs nothing. Just your time and energy to implement that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to open it up for questions from you all to ask Kristi. So just, share situations in your company, challenges you might be having, because I assure you she's had them, having that many employees. And so let's have a couple people at the mic here and a couple people here.
Hello.
Hi.
That was great, by the way.
Thank
so I have a product-based business, and I have created my business to be where I outsource everything. And what I realized is, even though I outsource to a manufacturing fulfillment house, sales team, that I need to be treating them like they are my employees, and I haven't been doing that. So I was wondering, how would I apply this with like my sales team that are independent contractors, or like my fulfillment house, and they're all outside of my office?
That's a great question. Have you got core values established for your company?
Not in writing.
Not yet? Okay. So that would be a great place to start, in my opinion. And I think that when you're looking to work with any partner, we do partnership deals where we have, sponsorships, et cetera. If they don't share our core values, we won't work with them. So it's the same idea. You can share your core values with the suppliers that you're working with, your partners that you're working with, and make sure that they, how do you feel about our core values? Do these fit with, do you guys believe in these core values? These are my core values of my company. And you make sure that they get that. And then secondly, sharing a vision. Letting them know, this is our vision for our company. This is where I'm trying to get to. How can you help me with that?
Now, thank you for that. I just realized they do have that, and they've been with me for 11 years, most of them. The part that I wanted to know is, how do I create like the incentive program with them? Because like my sales team doesn't necessarily work for me. They represent all these other products.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, and I don't know if that's something that I can get an answer for.
Could you not create some incentives for them? I mean, so they're working for you as well as a number of other companies. I mean, I think a lot of organizations have sales incentives, right? Where if they sell a certain amount of product for you, you've got some kind of a trip or you can create whatever you would like out of it, some kind of contest. The contests happen all the time with sales organizations. So perhaps it's as simple as incenting that way.
That's great. I'll be talking with all my mastermind team for my ask.
Fantastic. Yeah, you know
Thank
what?
you.
Honestly, the power of talking with other entrepreneurs or coaches it's so huge, right? Like being able to sit in a room like this and share ideas and ask questions. Like, does anyone, what do people think? How would you guys do this? Or because maybe someone's already doing it and can share.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that because I think so many business owners feel like I should know how to do this myself.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, truth. We don't know how to do anything ourselves. We like anything in life takes good coaching, right? To get good at, and I don't think business is any different. And you can get coaching from business coaches, and you can get coaching from peers, having a network of peers that you meet with on a regular basis, fellow entrepreneurs. I certainly have had huge value in that over the years, because especially when you're you do feel kind of alone on an island when you're leading a company. And so it's great, very powerful to be able to ask other people about their experiences and get ideas from doing so. So much of what we do at our company has come from getting shared experiences from others, for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Hi, I'm David with Ship My Orders. I really like your presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. So the first one would be regarding the core values on your interview process. So it's something I have been personally struggling with. So pretty much I'm trying to see how to assess someone's cultural fit through the interview process for these core values that sometimes are not very, I mean, if you ask someone, are you, this way or the other? So my question to you would be, how have you been able to, do you have a process with questions to assess how someone is good for your particular core values? Is through questions, through behavior? I mean, have you through the times kind of developed any advice on that regard?
Yeah, sure. People are really honest, I find. And so we often ask, in the group interview process, we ask people, which core value, it's written on the wall, we can literally point to them, which core value on the wall do you feel most speaks to you, most sums you up? And then you ask, which one doesn't? And people are really honest. And in fact, when I was hiring my last EA, which I heard you say yesterday, it took a bit of time to get.
Yeah.
I guess Heather is your
Yes.
assistant now. She's pretty awesome. Met her in the gym this morning. When we were hiring our last EA, one woman who stood out to me, I thought she was really great. And then I asked that question, and the core value that she said least spoke to her was get shit done. And I was like, oh God. Okay, so yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how, and I said, well, tell me about that. And she was saying, in my current job, I'll let things pile up and I'll take care of it. And I was just like, yeah, okay, that's so not going to work
Yeah.
for me. So
Isn't it wild how
people are honest.
Yeah.
But her one core value for her that she said she most would attach to was, I forget, it was like treat every member like your best friend or something. They're all good core values, right? And everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and not everyone's going to be 100% across the board, but ideally you're trying to find people who your core values speak to them. Mm-hmm. And some people will see the core values, some people will see get shit done on my wall or on my website, and that will offend them. They won't like that, and that's okay. That's totally cool, but clearly they're not going to fit very well at my organization. I swear a little bit, In fact,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having the word shit on the wall in my office in 2 locations. So being really public about sharing your core values, I think, can be really powerful.
Thing is that the way I used to do it is our final interview process. So I will go and do the cultural fit, piece, so to speak. So we have the core values, and I talk about everyone, and I ask them, okay, so how do you identify with this? And can you illustrate with an example if you think something that fits your personality? But the thing is, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you ask someone, okay, so tell me about a time where you were showing this core value, it's like they're going to deliver something just to, check boxes. So
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes having the homework package, I think, is really powerful, because if someone says that they deliver what they promise, and that I'm really good about delivering what I promise, and then their homework package shows up 3 hours late, clearly they're not big on delivering what they promise, right?
No, I like that one. And so one question, when you are making people jump through all these hoops to get, hired by your company, are these employees with a kind of a medium, higher salary, or do you have any lower level employees?
Everyone jumps through hoops if they want to work with us.
No matter what they're doing. And
Everyone jumps through hoops.
And this comes with my second question. So do you have mostly salary employees versus hourly wage employees?
We have, our full-time employees are all salaried.
Okay.
So over 35 full-time employees, they're all on salary, and those are the ones who they jump through hoops. But even the part-time employees come in for group interviews, and they have to do some small homework packages, even though they have to go through training. So we're pretty intense. We want good people representing our company, and I think if you make people jump through some hoops, they want it more.
Yeah, that's true. So my second question and final question, it's about your vacation. How do you structure your vacation? So I see that you have salary employees that kind of change things a little bit versus hourly wage employees. So do you allow people, because the whole purpose, I guess, is that you want people to actually take their time, disconnect, and you kind of refresh their minds, whatever. So do you have people who kind of never take them, do you force people to, at the end of the year, to use their vacation time? Do you allow them to roll them over? I mean, how do you have issues with that? We do have issues with people who will actually spend all their employees day by day, and at the end, they never get like a full, real employee time because they have been taking one day here and there. So how do you do that?
People are pretty good, I think, there are a few employees who don't take all their vacation time. But for the most part, we're pretty flexible too. Like there's one guy who didn't take much vacation time the last 2 years, and then he came to us and said he wanted to take 6 weeks at once, and I was like, great, go, do that. We'll make that happen. We will support you. Because the truth is, you can survive. Like you'll cover. What would you do if they got really sick? And so again, it just builds loyalty by allowing that. And another woman, it was her dream to go on a big trip, and so she sat down and planned out how was she going to take. She wanted to take a little more time off, so she took some unpaid leave in conjunction with some vacation time, and we supported that. For good employees, I want them to love working with us. I'm going to bend over backwards to make them be happy as well.
We do that too. I mean, I'm super flexible with my team. They ask me, can I take the day for this? My family is here, or I've got this appointment. I would say 99.9% I say yes. And because they don't take advantage.
Yeah.
Because they really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Hi, Kristi. Thank you so much for talking about this in a way where it's just not a nice to have, but actually a must have. I know you called them 10 tactical ideas, but really when I was looking at those, and I'll say in a minute why this is so important for me, I was looking at them as everything on there was you aligning what you do every day with your core values. So it was a blend of your actions, your offerings, as well as your perks for your employees. And what I loved about it is that you mixed your core values internally and externally. And let me introduce myself, I guess. So my name is Samara Hakim, and my company's name is called The Culture Factor. Haha. And what we do is we integrate culture into business metrics. So I was about to jump at everything you're saying there. I was loving it. I've been hearing from the morning until now that word culture fit. And one thing that I do as part of my work as we integrate culture into business metrics is how do we foster a more inclusive and as a result more innovative workplace? And I would love to just suggest shifting from culture fit to talking about culture add. We had talked about the core values. There's a way where we can still align with our core values, everybody, but there are people who will apply them differently. And so looking at what they add, and that homework package, when you mentioned that, that's a great way of going past the superficial and diving deep to see what exactly can they add in terms of their communication style, work style, behaviors, and all that. So thank you for doing all of these steps for culture add. My question is, and I know earlier you had said, I'm not sure how this is all measured. These are beautiful statistics and all that. I would love to tell everybody that there's a way that you can measure, and tie it to your business objectives and your bottom line, your performance. So I'm curious if you've been able to do that through your company, where all of this, have you been able to see and kind of touch it in terms of dollars?
I have never measured it. I guess I've just never really. I was sort of just joking around when I put in. As I was preparing for this presentation, I thought, every presentation needs statistics. I better throw in some statistics. And I'm laughing, looking up on the internet statistics around culture. And I was sort of being facetious by putting some of those in there. But I would love to know how you can measure it. I've only been able to measure it from my personal experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, our employee retention is huge.
Great.
So I can see. I just have never, sat down physically
the
measured?
math.
Like, are they staying because we eat lunch together every day? Like, is that why they stay? Are they staying because I give them all this vacation time? Like, I don't know how we do so many things to have a strong culture that I don't know how
Yeah.
you measure.
I mean, I would imagine it's all these things together. You know what I mean? It's not the one thing, right? And, so and they feel part of a family because you're going to spend more time, right?
Team, not family,
Oh,
yeah.
team, sorry. Team. But they spend more time with you than at home.
Yeah, it's
Right?
totally true. Yeah, for sure.
So excited to be there.
Yeah, and also the truth is, you could do a lot of things right, but you do one thing not well. Like if you're a dictator, even if you are bringing popsicles, people aren't going to want to work with you, right? So I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hello, Tom Wynn. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I run a company called WinCorp Solutions, so I love this topic. It's a people company, so we staff. The question I had for you is, I know you have probably entry-level, mid-level, and senior-level folks, and you probably have had, as you've grown and really expanded, for maybe senior leadership mindset, or maybe the manager or senior leader who someone's not in your company. Have you had any challenges for finding that right arm or the left arm, a senior person? Can you share with us some hiring challenges for that really key position, whether you
Yeah.
have it now or in the past?
Definitely. We for a very long time have been a company where we always brought in junior people and they worked their way up. And at some point, they didn't necessarily see a path for themselves anymore, because for a long time I didn't have a vision. I was literally playing a lot of tennis and having a great lifestyle, taking summer holidays with my kids, and and then I got bored and was like, I better do something different. That's when I came up with the vision and a growth plan. So, but for a long time, like, we'd hire junior people, they'd stick around for a while, and then they'd move on because there wasn't necessarily somewhere to grow, or there would be a place for them to grow and they would move up. When I came up with the growth plan, it was a challenge. I was like, I can't do this by myself. I don't know what it means to do a merger or an acquisition. In fact, I remember in university taking a finance class, and the term merger and acquisition made me want to throw up. I was like, God, what does that mean? I don't even want to know. And so then when the idea came to grow the company, and the best way to do that was going to be through acquisitions, I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't even know what that means. I had to hire a CFO, but I couldn't afford a full-time CFO. So I hired an interim CFO, fractional CFO. We ended up hiring a woman who works for us 2.5 days a week. She has been a huge resource for me. Like, for the last 2.5 years, she's been working with us. And she worked at a big company in Canada, and she didn't want a full-time gig. She wanted flexibility to be home with her son, but she's really brilliant and has done lots of great work in this area. So it's been a fantastic fit, hiring someone fractionally at a senior level. And it was done through... I used a headhunting firm to help find this person, and I interviewed 5 people, and it was, although we didn't do group interviews for this role, but I did do homework packages for them. And I'm actually looking, I just reached out to the same headhunting firm recently. I'm considering potentially hiring a fractional CIO.
I'd love to reach out with you on this, just to provide information.
Great,
I'd love to provide information.
great.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Does that answer your question?
Tom has
does,
staffed
it
a lot
does.
of our Pinnacle members.
Awesome.
with
Yeah,
employees.
and it speaks, I think you alluded to this about the point where you can find it measurable, because I think there's a definitional issue with the word culture. Actually, studies have shown, with vast amount of studies in organizational behavior and design, that the most enduring culture that really lasts and that's measurable is a performance-based one. So
Is
getting
what?
shit as a
Performance-based.
performance-based
Performance-based.
culture. So that's why it can't be measured. So I guess getting shit done is pretty performance-based.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, thanks. Just 2 more. Yes. Gwen.
Hi, Gwen Grossman. I run an architectural lighting design company in Chicago. I have a couple really practical questions. So I have struggled so much with the hiring process and getting the right people, because what we do is so niche. When you're hiring people that are coming in from out of town, we've struggled with like the cost of that. Do we pay for their flights? Do we host them for dinner and hotel? And how much do we have to entertain them?
Interesting. That's a great question. So we haven't hired a ton of people I haven't had that experience per se, although I have had the experience of trying to do some joint ventures and acquisitions and trying to do some partnerships where one I did fly in from the United States and put him up in a hotel, and it's taking forever to move that one forward. And the one that I didn't pay for him to come in or pay for his hotel, I took him out for a great dinner when he came in, is moving forward very quickly, which I found quite interesting. Like, it was almost like I wanted it too much, and I was putting, let me fly you up, So, you know what, we actually have, now that I think about it, we have hired 2 or 3 people who have moved to Toronto to work for us. I'm thinking of one young woman in particular. She flew from Vancouver to Toronto on her own for an interview. It wasn't even offered that we would have paid for that. So, but I never had really thought about that. She just applied and said we were sort of very impressed that she made that effort. I don't know what the right answer is.
I would be impressed if they offer that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking for that higher level person, and
I think
then we end up
for
spending.
a senior level job, you would. This was.
We've done it where we've split the cost.
That's a good idea. Okay. One other question. 9 to 5 culture in my office. We have a very small office. What's happening is people do get up at 5. And then everyone else thinks, oh, that's the pattern. We just do that. So they don't get the idea, at least the way I came up, where you need to get your work done. And it might not be a 40-hour week. And so I think since everyone else is doing it, it's just like they're just hands off. Once in a while, they'll be like, oh, I'll take my computer home. But moving forward, I don't want to have that as a culture. So how do you change something that's kind of embedded already in there?
So what we talk about a lot is I don't want FaceTime. In fact, I just let an employee go who had worked for us for over 10 years because she was not going to be able to keep up with the change of our organization. And she, interestingly, was in the office. I work late on nights when my kids aren't with me. I tend to stay late at the office till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Just if I'm getting shit done, I want to keep rolling. And she was the only person who was always there later than me. That didn't impress me. In fact, it actually really made me think you're not very efficient with your job. So for me, it's more about performance. I don't want the FaceTime. I don't want you sitting at your desk just to impress someone. I want you getting your work done and get home and have a life. Go do all the fun things that you're working for. That's sort of so we talk a lot, and our business is very seasonal. So in the very busy times, people know, don't plan your vacation during this week or this week. That's blackout period, we call it. That's a busy, busy time. You're going to maybe have to stay late at the office that week. But if you're really efficient as a team and you're working together and you're helping each other out, you'll get out of the office a lot sooner. The woman we let go was a real, she was a bit of a bottleneck. She was a perfectionist and wanted to proof everything before it went out. And it was like, you're holding up everybody with this attitude, and it's not going to help us scale. And so I think it's an attitude, I think it's more about performance. Are they getting the work done, and are they performing? Are they hitting the targets you need them to hit? And if they are, great. Who cares if they left the office right at 5 o'clock? But if they're not getting their work done, and they're not hitting the targets, it's about, I think that's the more important discussion to have.
Yeah. Thanks, Gwen. Awesome, thanks. We've got, I think, just one more. That's it, all we have time for right now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Angela Sayers. I'm a CPA and I run my own firm. The questions I have are twofold. First of all, when you do this long hiring process, I've had people that come and they seem like great, and I go through the process and I call them to give them an offer, and they've accepted somewhere else. And some people call back and they didn't like a decision that day. And the second question is, when you give them homework, what do you mean by homework? Give me an example of something.
Sure. Yeah, that's a problem. I hate it when that happens. When you've sort of gone through this, you've invested, and you're like, that actually happened quite recently to us, where we would narrow down to this is the guy, and I heard they offered him the job, and what happened was he went to his current job to give his notice, and they convinced him to stay. They begged him to stay. So we had to start again, which is frustrating. It doesn't happen that often because we really do try and probe, you know, how much time do you need to give your current job? How, you know, we get them to sell themselves to us a little bit, like how badly do you want to work here? We often ask, actually, one of the questions in the group interview, one of the questions when it's narrowed down to 3 people that we ask is, who's the best person in the room for us to hire? You would think that everybody would say themselves. That doesn't always happen, which I find hilarious. Some people will, actually, that person is, and it's like, really? You're not going to sell yourself? But then the next question we ask is, if we could hire 2 people for this job, we want you to write down the name of the other person in the room that you would so we can see who they think is a strong candidate, too, and it kind of confirms who you think is really strong. And then we really probe on, you know, how badly do you want the job, and you get them to sell themselves to you. So that sometimes helps with that first issue. The second issue, remind me what it was.
An example of homework that you
package.
give them,
Yeah,
yes.
homework package. So it's very job specific. One example, we just hired a marketing coordinator in January, and one of the we wanted to see how creative they were. So and I wanted to know how much effort they would put into going out and meeting members, going out to the games and connecting and hearing the voice of our members, because I think that's really important for our marketing team to know what's important to our members. The homework package was create a social media post or video. This one woman, the video she came up with was unbelievable. It got her the job. Like, I was like blown away. And the other candidates was so lame what they came up with. They put no effort in. They did not go to the games. We gave them the schedule of, you know, this is when games are, this is when you can meet people. She went out and interviewed members, and she put a lot of effort into that. So that was like, we were trying to see creativity there. We were trying to see how much effort they'd put in to jump through the hoop, and she blew my mind. You can also, scheduling is a big part of what we do, so you have to be real detail-oriented. So if they're hiring an operations person, they'll give them a test schedule to come up with. They'll say, you know, put together a schedule for a volleyball league, and they look for the detail. If there's a whole bunch of mistakes in there, they're not a very detail-oriented person. So it really is job-specific, but we have a number of different homework items depending on the job. We always ask people to come up with their bio for our website, and again, you kind of just see how creative they are, how detail-oriented they are. When I was hiring for our EA, one of her homework packages was to plan a trip. She was given, we have this budget, you need to plan the staff trip, what are you going to come back with? And so the three people who did the homework package all kind of put together an itinerary for a trip for my staff, and they researched online and, you know, said the flights will be this much, and we're going to go to this location, and the bus is picking us up at this time, and whatever, and it was just an itinerary.
Yeah, do it specific to your, I mean,
role.
we've done with marketing, do a 30-day marketing plan.
Yeah.
Or 30-day sales plan, and come back with that. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let's give Kristi a hand.